The Assyrian Empire. The line of kings begun by Hammurabi did not continue to rule Babylonia for long. Over the next several hundred years, a number of groups ruled parts of what had been the Babylonian Empire. The next great empire in Mesopotamia was created by a warlike people called the Assyrians. Assyria lay to the north of Babylon. The Assyrians had lived in Mesopotamia for a long time. They had briefly established their own empire before Hammurabi conquered them. They rose to power again toward 900 BCE, when a series of rulers of Assyria began preparing for war. With a newly trained army, the Assyrians began to expand their territory. The Assyrians were feared for their military might and their cruelty. Their greatest achievements were their new weapons and their war strategies. They perfected the use of horses and iron weapons in battle. They also became greatly skilled at siege warfare. In a siege, army soldiers camp outside a city and repeatedly attack it until the city falls. The Assyrians developed new ways of attacking cities. They were the first to use battering rams. These long, heavy beams on wheels were used for breaking down walls. The Assyrians also built movable towers that were rolled up to a city's walls. Soldiers used the towers to climb over the walls. The Assyrians were often ruthless. They might force entire populations to leave areas they had recently conquered. The Assyrians spread tales of their cruelty far and wide. Creating fear among their enemies was part of the Assyrian military strategy. The Assyrian Empire was ruled by powerful kings. Religion, however, remained very important in the social and political order. Even kings were obliged to obey the gods. The Assyrians believed that their kings were special beings. To honor them, the Assyrians built beautiful palaces. The great palace in the capital city of Nineveh had many rooms. Some palaces were built on tall mounds to raise them higher than the surrounding buildings. Huge sculptures of winged bulls or lions with human faces stood at the entrances. Like other societies in Mesopotamia, the Assyrians dug canals to irrigate their land and keep it fertile for farming. They also built some of the first aqueducts. Aqueducts were pipes or channels used to carry water. A system of canals and aqueducts brought drinking water to Nineveh from 30 miles away. Assyrian artisans were known for their two-dimensional sculptures called bas-reliefs. Many of the most famous bas-reliefs were on palace walls. They were amazingly realistic. Often they showed the king hunting, fighting in battle, or enjoying family life. The Assyrians used ivory to decorate thrones, beds, chairs, and doors. The Assyrian Empire lasted about 300 years. At its height, it stretched from Egypt to the Persian Gulf. But its weakness lay in being too vast a territory to control. The army was stretched thin, and the Assyrians could not fight off neighbors who rose up against them. In 612 BCE, Nineveh was plundered by a combined army of Babylonians, Scythians, and a group called the Medes. The Assyrians' power was broken forever.